So the other day, I spent a full hour going back and looking through the past 3 years of documents, group chats, and stuff I've been put in to figure out how many clients that we've helped scale past 100K a month. And the number I got to was 42. And that's not just people that, we built a landing page for and they went on to make 100K a month, or we wrote their emails for a little bit and they went on to make 100K a month. That's 42 clients that we've had a big helping hand in getting past 100K a month. Some of them obviously way beyond that. But in this video, I'm going to share with you everything I learned after helping 42 people get past 100K a month. And I think you're going to be shocked at how simple the way I look at it is. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So yes, guys, 42 info products past 100K a month. Obviously, some of them well beyond that. On the left, I've attached some of the guys that we're working with or that we have worked with. Obviously, some of them I don't want to reveal, but these guys I'm okay doxing. And the point being is that all these guys are in different niches. They all sell to different demographics. They all had different approaches in their businesses. But even after all of that experience, putting them all together, we've boiled it down to a simple process I'm going to share with you here. So the first step in scaling your info product or your client's info product past 100K a month is understanding the game that you're getting yourself into. And to put it super tangibly, the prerequisite is understanding the customer journey of the funnel you're launching or the conversion mechanism you're using. So let's do a quick example here. VSL funnel with paid traffic. So first you have your traffic, you're sending them to a meta ad, they're watching, they're clicking and landing on the landing page, they're hitting the application, they're going to the thank you page after they book, and if they're qualified, then they're speaking with a setter, they're getting enrolled into the pre-call process, and then they're actually on the sales call. So super simple, right? The whole reason why I'm even going over this customer journey is because you have to understand every step of the journey to be able to optimize each step of the journey. So you need to be able to check the box for every single point of the customer journey to ensure that you even have a chance of success. Every single one of these steps needs to be accounted for. So you need to be crystal clear on your ICP. You need to have a landing page and VSL that's congruent with that ICP. Your application needs to be structured properly with no unnecessary questions, no unnecessary friction. Your setters are clear on their speed to lead expectations and have proper frameworks and have been quality checked. We have all pre-call processes dialed in and everything sending properly, et cetera, et cetera. There's like probably 24 things just for a VSL call funnel that all need to be in place and optimized for it to have the best probability of success. So with that being said, once you have that step-by-step checklist of everything that needs to be done, it's not the hardest thing in the world. It's just a matter of actually doing those things. So with that being said, scaling an info product isn't difficult by any means, but it does require lots of attention to detail. So at each of these points, you can have little things that are wrong, little leaks in the bucket, and little leaks throughout your customer journey will just result in death by a million paper cuts. So with that being said, you need to be extremely detail-oriented with everything before ever spending $1 on paid ads, and realistically before you ever even launch a funnel to an organic audience. So simultaneously, once you learn every single step within this customer journey, you're going to become cognizant of every possible thing that could be going wrong and where that would become apparent in your metrics. So for example, if your ads are targeting the wrong people and there's incongruent messaging, that would result in a low click-through rate. Another example, if your VSL is doing a poor job at keeping people engaged and isn't resonating with the people landing on the page, you would have a low VSL engagement rate. Or if your setters are reaching out to people hours after they apply with terrible first touch points, that would be a low show rate and lots of ghosting. So again, it's important that you first of all understand every step within the journey and then understand how you doing those things wrong would manifest in the metrics. Second step is kind of going off of that is you have to define what success looks like for the conversion mechanism you've chosen. So on the left here, we have a financial model that we did for a client. He's running a VSL call funnel from paid ads. And on July 16th, we met because our performance for the past 3 days was not where we wanted it to be. So as you can see here, we have all the key KPIs. We have, your CPMs on Facebook, the link click-through rate that's aggregate across each campaign we're running, the page view to qualified booked call percentage, cost per call, how many calls we kept, the show rate on those calls, the close rate, and the average cash per call. And as you can see, we even have, if X metric is the bottleneck, we have like an exact standard process that we follow to get that metric up. Obviously, I'm going to blur that out because it's sensitive to the client. But on July 16th, when we met, the funnel was barely above break even, which obviously is not ideal. But when we met again on the 22nd, we looked back at the past 5 days. Just by fixing one of these metrics and getting it back above KPI, we got that funnel back up to a 3-to-1 return on ad spend. But so many people will have a funnel that they're running. They're like, it's just not profitable. I don't know what's going on. The cost per call is too high, whatever. And they're really just focused on the result that's happening instead of the inputs that are going wrong within that process that are leading to that result. So it might seem unnecessary. It might seem like extra. I've, thought in the past, like, oh, you don't have to do stuff like this until you're at a certain scale. But the truth is, like, the clarity that you're looking for is always somewhere in these numbers. Like, if someone ever comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm not happy with the results of this funnel, the first thing I ask for is the numbers, because it's like all you have to do is just look at the numbers and the answer is there. So I'll give you another example. I had a client who had a specific revenue goal that they wanted to hit. And basically he was like, hey, what do I need to do to hit this goal? And instead of giving him some like, fluffy answer like, oh, bro, you should just post more. Literally all I did was I went and looked at our trackers for him and I found our revenue per booked call. And I just reverse engineered the income goal from that number. So I was like, hey, bro, if you want to hit this revenue goal, we have to book 12 calls a day. Every day that we don't book 12 calls, we're falling short on this goal. And then again, that makes it very simple, very granular for the client. And they have a very clear input goal. So having this clarity about exactly what you need to do to hit the goals that you're aiming for is the first step, and honestly the most important step in actually hitting the goals. I'll give you another example here. So this is a consulting deal we took on where the client was running a webinar funnel, and honestly all of his numbers on the webinar were really good. I would say past this number. So like the number of people who stayed through the pitch was really good. The number of people who booked a call was really good. All of these numbers down were really good, but the funnel was break even. So he was like, hey man, like I want to get this up to like a 4-to-1. What do I need to do that? So we ran the same financial model, and really we just figured out that the biggest bottlenecks in his process were the sign up rate on the page and the show rate to the webinar. Those are two very important metrics. So then again, we ran the same financial model. We gave him all of the conditions here where it's like, hey, if this is the bottleneck, go back and do this. If this is the bottleneck, go back and do this. And honestly, like having that clarity of just, okay, if this goes wrong, here's exactly what I do. It's how you like dummy proof the entire thing. So the one point that I want to make abundantly clear is that complaining about performance, but not understanding why you're underperforming is the same as complaining about being out of shape, but never tracking a calorie or a workout in your entire life. Like all of the clarity you're looking for is somewhere on one of these spreadsheets. And if you, complain about why you're out of shape, but you never track anything or never track a workout, it'll always leave you wondering like, in a very, what the hell is going on kind of way, instead of identifying exactly what's going on and then iterating on it. And that's really all this stuff comes down to, is just being able to spot issues as they pop up and know what to do to fix them. So step number 3 is once you've identified what success looks like within that funnel, go full focus on one funnel. So I would not advise that for any client account you're working on or for your own offer that you go and try to do webinars and VSLs and DM funnels all at the same time, because essentially you're trying to learn how to play 3 sports at the same time without ever focusing on one of them. So I went ahead and took that same customer journey that we talked about in step 1 here. And essentially, I'm just going to walk you through kind of what our KPIs and what our goals are for each step of this funnel. So first, on the ad side, we're going to be optimizing for the highest converting ads. That could be one simple metric, just like link click-through rate. We're going to be optimizing for people within our ICP actually coming through the funnel. So that's more of a messaging thing. And also that the messaging aligns with the offer, et cetera. This is one of those things where like if you mess this up, you're just going to have a bad time the whole rest of the process. So again, it's crucial. On the landing page and the application, we're going to optimize for the page is actually converting at KPI. The VSL is being consumed at KPI and there's minimal application drop off. Again, this is a testing process too. Once they hit the thank you page, we're optimizing for responsiveness to the setter. They're actually interacting with the pre-call process. So they're opening the emails, they're watching the videos, etc. And clarity about what they're doing, and there's a gap being built. So really like we want people to understand what they're applying for and like why the offer is valuable and all that kind of stuff. Because again, if you mess things up here, it manifests here and it just makes all of this an issue. So it's very important that like each one of these steps has a lot of attention to detail and attention to feedback being allocated towards it. Next thing, when they speak to a setter, we're going to optimize for speed to lead. The leads are actually bought in on the call, like they understand why the call is valuable and they're excited about showing up. And the setters are actually pulling their weight and making the closers' lives a bit easier. And again, this is going to be a testing process. On the pre-call process, we're going to optimize for a high show rate, good feedback from the sales team. And again, this is a testing process. Everything we're doing from the time that a lead is speaking to a setter to the call being live, everything in here can be iterated on a bunch of times until you finally start to meet these goals of a high show rate and getting good feedback from the sales team. And then when it comes to being on the actual sales call, we're going to optimize for obviously high cash per call, high close rate, and closers not constantly having to pull teeth with the same objections repeatedly, because it's just going to lead to burnout and them being low morale. So again, like if we have issues here, they're probably a symptom of things that are not being done properly here. So every single step within this journey has to be focused on. So step 4 is understanding the ceiling on certain approaches and when to start fighting new battles. So what I mean by this is, this is a process that realistically might take you 30, 60, 90 days to dial in, especially with paid traffic. With organic, it's always way easier. But, this is a constant testing process of testing everything on the ad side, testing everything on the landing page, VSL application side, testing on the pre-call process and the sales process and everything. And like realistically, if you know what you're looking for and you know what to do when things go wrong, this shouldn't take more than 30, 60, 90 days to really get it to the point where it's as profitable as you want it to be. But then it's like, okay, I've cracked the call funnel. I'm happy with my results from it. When do I move on to the next thing? So you kind of have to understand the law of diminishing returns. And it's like, okay, once you've gotten the call funnel to where it needs to be, and it's at like an 8 or 9 out of 10, it's time to move on to the next funnel and kind of crack the next funnel. So our bread and butter and kind of what we've been leaning into heavily is call funnels and webinars being run together in tandem. So I would say my ideal scenario for simplicity, just from right now, our biggest accounts, around 60% of the revenue is coming from the call funnel. That's like old reliable, that's like the consistent daily lead flow funnel. And then around 30% of our rev is coming from biweekly webinars. So something that's really good about webinars is it's a good way of cleaning up all of the leads that are coming through the call funnel and not immediately converting. And you kind of condense that sales process a bit. And there's going to be people who come through your call funnel, let's say on August 1st, they don't buy when they get on the call on August 5th, but then they attend a webinar, a couple weeks later, and they end up converting after that. Whereas like that person might have been a 3-month sales cycle if you didn't have that activation event of the webinar. So just getting back to this, around 60% of the rev coming from a call funnel, 30% coming from biweekly webinars, and around 10% coming from everything else like email marketing, et cetera. Obviously, these aren't numbers that are set in stone. This is just what I'm noticing from a handful of our bigger accounts. And you just have to understand that realistically, $500,000 a month or $250,000 a month, there's only 1 to 2 funnels that are really operating well. I feel like a lot of people have this misconception like, oh, to get to $500,000 a month or even $1 million a month, you have to have all these different things going on. But honestly, like a call funnel is a very high funnel ceiling. Same thing with webinars. And there's a world where you can make $1 million a month just off of those 2 funnels. So you guys might be wondering, like, is that really it? And honestly, like at a simplistic level, that is kind of it. Obviously, there's so much nuance that goes into every single thing I've talked about here. And I plan on making more videos about that. If you guys have specific things you want to learn, go ahead and comment, and then I'll make sure to make videos about them. But really, that's all this process boils down to. You don't need a massively complicated approach like you see from a lot of people. You just need conviction in the approach that you're taking, that it will actually get you to where you want to go or where your clients wants to go, and the focus to keep iterating on things until you crack it. This entire game is just learning how to build infrastructure. So the example we gave in this video was like a VSL call funnel. You build the infrastructure, you iterate on it based on what's not meeting KPI, and you have those actions set in place where like, okay, if this isn't meeting KPI, it's exactly what I have to fix. And then you just amplify it. Once you get it to the point where it's converting and you're hitting all your big KPIs, you just put more spend through it. Like, this is the beautiful thing about paid traffic is you build the infrastructure, you iterate on it, and then you just amplify it. So really, like, I know that this might seem simple and you might have been expecting to see some like super tactical, like, oh my God, this is the secret. There is no secrets in this game. Like, it's all just about building infrastructure, iterating on it until it's at the point where it needs to be, and then amplifying it. So I hope that makes sense, guys. Whatever other questions you guys have or other videos that you guys want to see, I'm more than happy to make. Just go ahead and comment below. Be sure to subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.